and just really appreciative to have this time together this evening, and grateful to you all for joining us. It was just about a year ago, and I don't know the exact date, but it was just about a year ago that we hosted our first Black alumni reunion on campus, really organized in large part out of the sheer will of Tanya Rutherford, class of 1990, who couldn't join us tonight. And then also many of you on the call. So that was just an incredible event, I think, not just for our alumni and reconnecting them to Mercersburg, but also for our students. And so we do have Izona here with us today as well. So we'd love to have everybody introduce themselves, and maybe Izona, you could start if you don't mind, and just so that everybody knows who you are.
All right, so my name is Izona. I am a junior and I live in FAO. I am the president of BSU. I'm also the vice president of the French Club. And I'm also doing a lot of work around campus with diversity, equity, inclusion, and making sure that future generations of students on Mercersburg have a great experience. So that's basically what I'm doing right now.
Thanks, Izona. John Henry, you want to introduce yourself? I'm going by what my order is, by the way. I know it's all different on everybody else's Zoom, but I'm kind of following the order on my Zoom.
Arlene and I can't see, can only see a few people.
Okay.
Is there a way to bring up more people?
It should be in the upper right-hand corner of your window. You should be able to change from speaker view,
gallery view,
to gallery view, okay. And that should help.
Got it. Thank you.
John, I think you're muted. Or we're not hearing you.
Yeah, he's on mute.
Okay, excellent. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
All right, awesome. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Henry. I graduated in 1991. I was a four-year student. I was served on the Alumni Council back in 2000 to 2003. And presently, I'm newly appointed to the Board of Regents. My son, Austin, is the class of 2023, and he's a sophomore.
Great, thanks. The Shorts, Lucy and Jeffrey?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, my name is Jeffrey Short, and I'm here with my wife, Lucille Short. We bring you greetings from Fort Washington, Maryland. We have a daughter, Olivia, who is a sophomore, and we're happy to be a part of the call this evening.
Jason, you want to say hi?
Sure. My name is Jason Berschke. I'm the Director of Alumni Relations at Mercersburg, and I was able to work a lot with Tanya last October, and I'm excited to see so many people.
Great. Carolyn?
Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn Yeager, and I'm the Chief Advancement Engagement Officer. And one of the silver linings of COVID is we say we get to do these online events and meet lots of people that we wouldn't have otherwise seen together. So really glad to have you all tonight.
Great. Chris?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Howes. I'm the Assistant Head of School for Student Life and Culture. I'm really excited to be here and just to listen and be part of getting to know all of you, and hopefully being able to answer any questions or anything of that nature as we go through the night.
Great, thanks. Jason Wright.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're well. Jason Wright, class of 99. I was a four-year senior, four-year student at Mercersburg from Bronx, New York. I currently serve on the Alumni Council, and while I was at Mercersburg, participated in a number of sports and extracurricular activities. So welcome.
And Jason was on a call with us just today with the Alumni Council, doing good work for the school. So thanks, Jason. Marilyn, do you want to say hi, or Mama?
Sure. Marilyn Poku. I explained that I'm Mama to Christopher, who is an alum of Mercersburg and actually just recently got out of college, and Danny, who is there. So I'm the mother of two Black students at Mercersburg.
Great. Leela.
Hi,
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you and see your names. My name is Leela Woody. I am the Interim Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice at Mercersburg Academy, and I am thrilled to be in conversation with you all.
Great, thanks. Denise, you want to say hi?
Sorry, I was taking attendance. Denise Bennett, I'm Special Events Coordinator, and I'm a parent of 12 and 19. Welcome,
Awesome.
guys.
Thanks. The Wests. Arlene, do you want to say hi?
Hi, my name is Arlene West. My husband is Bert Alamansky, who is an alum. And we have a daughter, Sharube, who actually started her first day in class today, which is very exciting.
Thank you, Chris House. Thank you for all your effort.
Great.
And we're delighted to be here.
Awesome. And I see Hope Sanders' name. I don't see you, Hope, but I see your name on our call here.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Hope Sanders, and I'm the class of 2018. And during my time at Mercersburg, I was the vice president of BSU. And I'm just excited that a lot more things with the Black alumni are happening now, and I'm just excited to be involved.
It's good to hear your voice, Hope. Nadine, you want to say hi? Hold on, I think you're muted. Can you unmute for us?
Unmute.
There we go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nadine Guabentlolo. I am the mother of Izona, who is on the panel today. So she started at Mercersburg in 9th grade, and it's been a wonderful experience so far. So happy to be here.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Juanita, class of 02. Hi. I think you're also on mute for us. Here we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Hi, good evening, everybody. Juanita, class of 02. I am joining because I really enjoyed our fireside chat last time around. So I was just interested to see how it goes virtually.
Yeah.
But hi, everybody.
Yeah, it's not the same. I'll tell you, it's not the same virtually, but we'll do our best. Jared Brody.
Hi, everyone. Class of 91. I was made aware of and invited by my classmate, John Henry. I myself have gone through Mercersburg and have a number of relatives, both Black and white, and I'm excited for the invitation to see how this goes. So thank you for allowing me to join.
Great. Thanks for joining us. We have a phone call that I can't tell the number, 718 number. Do you mind letting us know who you are? Not sure.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carolyn Dennis, and my daughter Carrie Ann just started, and she's in 9th grade.
Great. Oh, God. We're glad you're here with us, Carlene.
Thank you.
How about Johan?
Yeah, in party.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Johan Brathwaite, and my son Jason just started in the 9th grade.
Thanks for joining us, Johan.
Very welcome. Thanks for having me.
And the Osfos, are you with us?
Hello, everyone. We're the Seafoods from Lagos, Nigeria. Our son started this September in the 11th grade, though he's doing online because of the COVID situation.
Great. Well, thanks again for all of you to joining us tonight. And I think, I just want to start and then, just open it up a little bit. We can hear a little bit more from Izona. But, when you think back to where we were even just 8 months ago as a school and as a country and a world, it's kind of amazing to think about all that's been happening in that time. Certainly, there's been a ton of attention that's been given to just how do you open a boarding school in the midst of a global pandemic. But also at the same time, while all of that was happening for Mercersburg in particular, we had kind of a big blow when Celeste Douglas, who was our director of diversity, equity, inclusion, decided that it was appropriate for him, and with our full support, to take another job this summer. And so I just want to acknowledge Leela for a second, Leela Woody, who has stepped up into that interim role for us this year. And her entire focus really is to be working directly with our students and with our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and keep that good work that got started last year under Celeste's leadership moving forward. And she's got awesome students like Izona who are helping with that. And in addition, we also realized that given the lack of diversity in our own faculty and the adults in our community, it was going to be important for us to try to reach out to other resources. So not just our alumni, which you guys have been just incredible and amazing and wanting to help, but we also then partnered with a group called Diversity Directions, who have been doing diversity, equity, inclusion work in independent schools for decades. And so our point of contact is a gentleman by the name of Keith Hinderly. And Keith is actually doing a culture assessment for another school this week, but he's going to join us at some point. He's going to pop in and we'll let him just say hi, but he wants to just be able to introduce himself, put a little bit of a name to his face, and he'll be working with us in an ongoing manner, probably for the next couple of years as we continue to do some of this work. And I want to just acknowledge too that the Black Alumni Association, which was launched about a year ago under the careful leadership of Tanya Rutherford, really at that time began some really important initiatives for the school. The Tom Leslie Scholarship to honor our first Black graduate, and so we're continuing to make a commitment to that. The school has committed to getting that off the ground, and we're going to continue to do some fundraising to support that scholarship. And then in addition, they're working on some podcasts, which I think is going to be amazing to hear the stories of our alumni that we'll be able to share in different ways within our community. And then finally, one thing that Tanya and I are hoping to be able to start is the connection between our alumni with our current students through these kinds of virtual calls. I think even a year ago, we all would have looked at each other and said, really, a Zoom call? What's that all about? And, we might not have gotten as much interest and enthusiasm to do it. But I think now, we're all so comfortable in this environment. It's just become a little bit of the norm. And so we're hoping to get some sessions off the ground this year where we can connect our current students with our alumni. So those are just some of the things that we're talking about to try to close the gap in terms of the areas of weakness that we have here at the school for our students. But tonight is an opportunity for us to talk, and we'll start with Izona and ask her to talk a little bit about, what it's been like, just generally, I think, as a student here, but also in the midst of COVID and all of the racial and political unrest that we're experiencing in our country. And then maybe have the Shorts, who are here on behalf of our Parents Association, Blue Key, to be able to or White Key, to be able to offer some thoughts too. So Izona, you want to kick us off?
All right, so hello everybody. My name is Izona. So I've been here since my 9th grade year, and I'll be honest, my freshman year as a Black student on campus was disappointing. There was not much of a support system, and there were a lot of issues on campus. There's a lot of issues with students saying inappropriate things. There wasn't really a true appreciation for Black culture. We had Martin Luther King Day, and I've said this before, but it felt almost as if it were a chore that students had to do just to say that they appreciated Black culture, and then after that it was over. But I do remember when I came to campus, there were students that really embraced me, and their names were Aaron, Tanaka, and I was best friends with Falake, and Emily, who's actually Hispanic, and they were really there. I think without them, my experience would have been a lot more difficult. They were my support system. We could relate over music and food and laugh in our common room and dance. And that support system was amazing. And unfortunately, they all graduated last year. But since then, I've been doing a lot of work with one of my friends, Matthew Tavares, on DEIJ work. And our goal is to be that support system for other students of color and actually make a space where students don't actually need to have specific leadership and students of color in order to feel welcome on the Mercersburg community. I just want it to be ingrained in the lifestyle and who Mercersburg is. And obviously Mercersburg needs help with that because Mercersburg was never meant for students of color. It wasn't made for women. It was created for white men. And so we're coming into this into this campus, and we're trying to carve out a space for ourselves where we can feel welcome and comfortable. And we're doing a lot of good work, and Ms. Titus and Ms. Woody are really fun, and Mr. House are doing a lot of important work and helping us to do this. And we've come a long way. I would say we've gone almost from 0 to like 50 in the course of 1 to 2 years, which is really good because there was nothing and now there's a lot. We are launching, we had a meeting today with Ms. Woody. We are launching affinity groups for students who are LGBTQ, students of color. And it's gonna be very widespread so that everybody can have a community where they join and feel comfortable talking about issues and just being together. And yeah, we're making a lot of progress. So yes, that's my experience as a student of color on Mercersburg's campus so far.
Thanks, Izona. Jeffrey and Lucy, do you want to jump in there?
Sure. First of all, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a powerful message in just what you just described, that in a short period of time, there has been some movement, at least, from feeling more welcome. I would agree with you more always, because Mercersburg, from our perspective, well, unfortunately, I grew up in Connecticut. I grew up not too far from Choate Rosemary Hall. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it was a school for the privileged. It was a school for people not like me. And ultimately, it wasn't a matter of what school, if Livia was going to go to boarding school itself, but what attracted us most was because of the consistency that we saw within Mercersburg. See, if I step back just a little bit, I'd say we were blessed in the fact that she attended a very diverse school from multiple years in pre-K all the way to 8th grade. And so her friends were the rainbow around the world, from Russia down to South America, Latin, and in between. And so it began to search for where was the best school for us to go to. And the consistency, and if I step back again without being too long-winded, she decided that she was going to boarding school when she was 8 years old. I don't know if that was about parenting or if it was just that she was prepared to go. So at that point in time, we had to find what we would describe as the best scenario for our child. And as I said, it was more about the consistency that we saw with the embracement from Quentin to Chatterton to Miss Crouch, etc. They were very warm, they were very welcome. And one of the pieces in growing up in Wallingford, Connecticut was, what is that consistency that you're having with me? Mm-hmm. Does your story change every single time that you talk to me? And that was not the case here. I'll let my wife just share some points because I've talked too much already.
I mean, without repeating what Jeff was saying, you know, diversity has always meant something to us. And when you are a mother of an only child, the one thing you want to is put your child in a place where you know she's going to grow, where somebody's going to nurture her. And not only that, they're going to love her and embrace her with friendship. And you're right, there isn't a lot of diversity for African American kids of color. But the one thing that I will say that Mercerburg has done, and they're doing it well, is they have embraced it, acknowledged it, and now they're talking about it. So just, I mean, we're in this pandemic. So the unique thing that's happening with us right now is that we're able to bring everybody to the table and we're discussing it honestly. And I have to be vain. I think one of the things that I had to reach back, like, oh my gosh, my daughter's here. When I bring her to school, who's going to be able to do that? And we're now in discussions with that. I know Ms. Woody is working on that. We're looking at ways to say, where do we go to get our girls who need their hair braided, who need it relaxed or whatever? Because you don't think about that on an everyday basis, what it takes to take care of their hair. So this is their second place of where they're going to be growing up and where they're going to be living. This is home, and the hygiene and all that other stuff comes to place. And I have to give Mercerburg credit because they were willing to say, well, let's take a step back and what does that look like? So it's nice to know that the school where we placed our child at is willing to look at options. You may not get everything that you want, but you're willing to say, hey, how do we start to have the conversations and the dialogue? So it may not happen this year, but by the time my child graduates, you'll see a lot of things that have taken places. And so I think we have done a nice job with that. Am I missing anything, Jeff?
No,
Yeah.
It's all about progress, right?
Yeah.
And so again, one step at a time, but let's accelerate it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And Azona, what's Matthew's little saying that we keep, what's the mantra that we keep saying? Do you remember?
I'm
Something
not
about
sure, but I do know one thing we do say is we can't we can't stay comfortable until the least comfortable on campus feel safe and appreciated. I don't know what Matthew says.
I like that. I like that. Well, you kind of said it, but it's like we want to leave the place better than we found it, right? You know, and that's kind of what we're talking about in terms of the progress.
Yeah,
that's key.
Yeah.
Well, we're in uncomfortable times, right? Isn't it about the new norm is we should feel uncomfortable in our discussions. We should feel uncomfortable with what's happening. And at the same token, let's figure out new ways to make it better.
Yeah. I hit mute on myself, sorry. I know you've been really connected with the work that's been happening with the Black Alumni Association and with Tanya. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing and the conversations that you're having? And Jason, you may be able to jump into that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give folks some context, 30 years ago, I was very fortunate to work with Tanya when we were students, and Sahir Champion and Jay Myrie, and we founded and formed the Black Student Union. So it's and being, a little bit involved in the reunion that occurred last year, it gave me great pride to see after 30 years of evolution and consistency in the school, that it was still thriving and that we could all convene together and to really celebrate our differences. And really at the end of the day, that's really what Mercersburg is to me, right? When I look at my experiences, I'm filled with gratitude because I came from a place where there were cliques, there were jocks, there were smart kids, there were, the stoners, the hippies, the whatever, right? And I was kind of locked into that environment. I was one of the jocks, so I didn't really get out much. So I came to Mercersburg. It opened me up to so many different things, a worldview. I had classmates from 30 different countries. I had never seen that before, never heard of it, but I learned so much from them. Those folks that I wouldn't necessarily hang out with, the quote hippies, they introduced me, they gave me the gift of music They introduced me to Bob Marley and Dorm Life. And I still listen to them today. It's like on the top of my, my collection. Now, but for those sort of interactions in Dorm Life and those sort of growing up together and stripping away all of those sort of differences that really don't make, that really don't shape us, that don't really matter. Mercersburg really allowed that to the extent that it could, because it's still, the world, it's a bubble, but it's still impacted by the world and cultural forces. That's why we really felt it was important to create that cultural connection and maintain that 30 years ago. And that's why, in working with Tanya and Jay and Sahir and Jason Wright and others, we're really trying to, we reconvened and we said, okay, now we're still leaders and we can do more. And we're working with the school and perhaps some other folks. Jason, you can amplify this. But I know we're working on a mentorship program. We're really formalizing the creation of the Black Alumni Association. We're really trying to engage the current students to ensure that they have opportunities to expose themselves to a lot of the networks that the alum have. I mean, we have a robust network of African Americans that are very successful in all walks of life. And we're all welcome and willing to contribute and share that. And I think that's what we're doing together collectively with Katie and the staff to really build on that. Now, as a parent, my only prayer was that my son had the same experiences that I had at Mercersburg, because my experiences were amazing. I mean, top-notch teachers, staff, facilities, resources, a nurturing environment. They challenge you. And I needed to be challenged at that age because I thought I knew it all. That was just me. I was a tough one to handle back in the day. But Mr. Rawhauser and Mr. Holsworth and Miss Stevens, they handled me. And they channeled some of that energy, I guess, that I had that was, some would say negative at times, but they channeled it in a positive way. That was personal growth for me. I didn't come from a lot of wealth. Like, I was on scholarship when I got to Mercersburg, just to be honest. So I was a bit intimidated when I first got there because I let socioeconomic status in class kind of mess with my brain a little bit. But going through and experiencing and just meeting folks, I realized I found my voice. I found my confidence, if you will, because it allowed me to say, hey, look, my dad might not be a doctor, my dad might not be a lawyer, but I deserve to be here. And these people still are giving me the tools. If I just show a little bit, they'll meet me there and give me more. And I belonged, right? I had that sense of belonging. That's why Mercersburg gives me that sense of home. That's why I'm still active today. And that's why I will continue to be active and really attribute all of my success in life to my opportunity to have spent time at Mercersburg. So I'm always willing and eager to come back home and help in any way that I can.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate that. That's such a, it warms my heart to hear your story. And, and I think that part of, if we really think back to, the time from when John was a student here and Tanya to now, I think part of the reason why Mercersburg's culture has attracted such incredible students and such a diversity of students has been the fact that you have these incredibly welcoming adults. But it doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of work to do as it relates to what Azona was saying at the beginning, in terms of our growth, so that we can really acknowledge and embrace the Black culture in better ways. The fact that we didn't have a system in place for our students to get their hair cut or braided is a problem, right? We need to do that. And so, especially because of our location, if you can think about what it's like to be in downtown Mercersburg. So, so we're making progress, and I'm really, really excited to be able to have the partnership of so many good folks to help us to do that. So really, this is meant to now be a time for people to share and talk about their experience. Oh, and perfect timing, Keith. He just joined us. So Keith Hinderly, before we open it up to what people have on their minds or your own stories or questions or dialogue, I just want to be able to introduce Keith, who is going to be working with us at least through this year and hopefully beyond as we continue to lay a foundation for better support for our students of color. So Keith, do you wanna say a quick hi to everybody? You're muted though. Can you unmute for us?
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
Great. Thanks, Keith. How'd your assessment go today?
Whew, I've been going since 8 this morning. So
well, we really appreciate you joining us. And Keith has been doing this work for a long time. And actually, he was were you the founding director of diversity at Choate Rosemary Hall?
I was.
And so, so now we're feeling really lucky to have his extensive experience with this work. And so really happy to have him here. And again, he's just here to listen and to get to know our community a little bit more. So thanks, Keith, for being with us. So now it's really, what do you guys want to talk about? What do you want to know about? What stories do you want to share? Who wants to jump in and challenge us or connect?
May I ask a question?
Yeah, who's that?
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. So I know that it was mentioned that there was some progress because one of my main concerns and struggles as a Black female on campus was getting my hair done. I can attest to that. It was definitely a struggle, especially during seasons like prom and stuff like that. So I'm glad to hear. Well, is there any progress being made? Like, it seems that I'm getting them saying that there's progress. So I just want to know like what exactly is happening in terms of that, because I feel like that's a very good thing that's happening.
Leela, do you have that, or is that Chris? Who needs to respond to that?
I can answer, and Chris can jump in where I'm missing.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Yeah, there's been a communication. There are a lot of people who are involved in this conversation, which I think is good. We have communication from Trini Hoffman, who runs our student programs, of kind of coordinating the timing and the place of this. We have Chris's support from Student Life. Katie Titus has been involved in this conversation. This is something that the Shorts, Mr. and Mrs. Short, were in conversation with Mr. Chatterton over the summer about what this would look like, particularly coming back in quarantine, what that might look like for their student. And I totally agree with Ms. Titus that I'm really glad and hopeful that we're having this conversation. I'm disappointed that it took this moment for us to have the conversation, but what's important here is that this was brought up to us by parents, and it was kind of an initiative that we had been talking about, but I'm really grateful to the Shorts for pushing that forward and for finding a faculty member on campus to help with that. So the update, Hope, for you to know exactly what's happening, and Mr. Howes and I were just on an email on this like an hour ago, is that we have identified through our Black male faculty on campus, the barber that they go to, and they have coordinated with him about his start time. Right now, what we're trying to figure out is the appropriate compensation for him, both in terms of transportation, but as well as his time here, right? That means that he's traveling all the way here, and we can't guarantee, like, we're not going to force kids to go get their hair done. So we need to make sure that we're compensating for him for his time properly. So we're working on that, where that money is coming from, scheduling him, and figuring out the appropriate testing to make sure that we're keeping our students safe and our community safe. So the earliest start date that we have for that is actually a week from this Saturday, which is really exciting. We just have to make sure that we can check off all of those boxes properly. And that's something that is on the top of the list for me tomorrow, to make sure that I'm talking with our head of HR to get all of those things set in place. And Trini Hoffman will be organizing kind of the timing and the staging of that. And then we'll figure out how we're going to roll out the communication. That being said, we're still working on identifying how we are going to support our female identifying students, or rather the better way of saying it would be our students who, as Lucy Short said, who get their hair braided or twisted or relaxed and so forth. And so that is a little bit different because unfortunately right now at Mercersburg, we don't have any Black female faculty who have personal access to that connection. So that requires a little more work and effort on our part, but that is definitely something we're doing. It's something the Shorts are in conversation with Mr. Chatterton about. and something that we will be getting updates for, and really, really pushing to identify not only how can we do that for special event seasons, which is so important, like you were bringing up, Hope, but also kind of how can we create this culture where regularly we're providing this, especially when our students can't get off campus, but even for our kids who don't have the resources to get off campus in the middle of the term and get their hair done. So does that answer your question fully?
No, yes, it does. And I'm so glad you guys are doing that. When I was a student, my senior year or my junior year, there was a faculty member, female Black faculty member. Her last name was Anderson, so I took her first name. And she offered to drive a couple of students to Maryland because that was the closest hairdresser that was near Mercersburg, which was a little troubling. But if you want, you can get in contact with her. And she had a hairdresser in place, but I'm not sure of anywhere else that's closer.
I think Lucy has some really good ideas. The only issue that we have, right, Lucy, is partly the COVID problem.
It's the COVID thing. I think one of the things that we were trying to do or possibly look at is maybe like a pop-up where they come out. And I've been working with another parent, Ms. Kane, who knows people in the Mercersburg and the Frederick area that may be willing to come out, and that we set up a location where, you know, the new thing that I'm finding is they're calling them pop-ups, where they just show up on a specific, you know, we're looking maybe Sunday, sounds like, because Friday and Saturday are busy days, but make a Sunday where they're here throughout that, from the morning to possibly the evening, depending on what they're getting done. So we're just trying to look at different people that are out there that would be the right fit, because I know not everybody, especially mothers of Black kids, they want to make sure the person that's working on their hair understands their hair. The last thing they want to do is fry their hair. So we're looking at the right person to make sure that it's done correctly. Does that answer your question, Hope? I hope.
Yes, I'm so excited.
It's another one of those weird COVID silver linings, though, because I think prior to COVID, our goal would have been, okay, we'll figure out a time to get the kids off campus, you know, to get to the salons or to the barbershops. And now we're like, oh, well, let's bring them onto campus. And that's probably the safest thing for us to do for our kids in the midst of COVID. And, you know, that may actually be better for our kids in the long run if we can find the right practitioner to be able to partner with us.
We did that at Choate, actually. The challenge was all of the extra equipment and hair washing, and, you know, where they're going to set up if they're going to do, you know, all of that. If they're not going to do all that, people come with their hair washed, and, you know, they just need to bring a dryer or, you know, what have you. It's a little bit easier, but that's
if I can interject, one of the cool things about not only the pop-up, but they're also calling them the mobile or the taxi service. So
they come in an RV or whatever.
They're coming in an RV. It's kind of like if you're getting your dog groomed, but now they're doing full salons in a van, and they're coming in and they're setting up shop, or what they call them here in the DC area, their salon plaza, where they're individual little booths that they're setting up, and they are doing everything from the, like Lily said, from the relaxing to the braiding to the twist, to the cuts for the men. They're doing a combination of everything, even down to the eyebrow wax and the nails. So it's almost like a one-stop shop is what we're looking for.
No, I've seen that. I've seen that as well. Yeah.
Say that again.
And they do it outdoors because it's safer.
Well, I guess it depends on how you want to set it up. And I think that's the conversation that we have to get into and kind of look like, what is the requirements of Mercersburg? Because at the end of the day, it's about making sure our kids are still safe, because we do now have them in the bubble. So you don't want to bring all these people in that we don't know where they've been, what they've been doing. So you want to make sure that by the time this happens, it may not happen by November, but probably looking in the next term, that maybe we will identify a few people, because you still got to do the background check and everything about them before you just want them to show up, because it is your reputation. So.
Right. And we also have to make sure with the testing too, and this is something that's been on my mind, and I know as well as on Rudy Wise and Liam Chatterton, who have been taking the lead on this, what we're asking of that practitioner, right? If we have them getting a test on Friday night, they need to wait until they get their results. And once they get their results,
Exactly.
they can't go out and do their job. So that's why we're also kind of trying to give some really careful thought of kind of that transportation and how much we can compensate to make it worth the time, and really acknowledge the effort and work that that practitioner is putting in.
Yeah, honestly, it's going to be baby steps as we're going through, because this is all new to us. It's uncharted territory. So just trying to figure out what is the best avenue and what is the best direction, because, you know, we are making that approach to help the kids, and we understand because, you know, I know what it's like when I bring my daughter home. It is an all day when she's getting her hair braided. We could start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it could be 5 o'clock in the evening when she's done. And that's a short time. So you want to make sure it's the right person, and, you know, it becomes a financial responsibility. You know, they got to pay for it. You know, what is the service? So you want to make sure the person's coming on campus and not also nickel and diming your child, because it can be expensive for certain things.
Leila, just are we talking to these students about this and getting their input?
Yeah, so actually, Izona, and I see that you're trying to jump in, Izona, so I'm going to give you space right after I answer this question that Jason just asked. When this was kind of brought to us, one of the first, Izona and I have a working relationship, I think, where it was okay for me to kind of say, hey, this conversation is happening. Can you let us know who would be interested in this? Because this was before this was even brought to kind of the administration, Ms. Titus, and I said, I really think the most effective way is going to be able to show the students that are interested in this and kind of get an idea of what they want. So we know that we have that student interest, and their voices are involved in the conversation. This is something that hopefully will have an increase of student involvement. Something that's happening right now with my position and Celis's position last year is this is the first time that we've had an official title with DEI in it to address the needs of our students of marginalized communities. So it does mean that a large part of my job right now is establishing a communication channel, as well as building that trust in those relationships with students. So there are certainly students who have these concerns that probably don't feel comfortable talking to me about that right now. And I have to be okay with that and find the ways in which we can access those students and start to kind of build that trust. So my answer, Jason, is yes, we've talked to some students. Have we pulled and gotten all of the input that we would ideally like? Probably not. Hopefully we'll get more of that as we kind of put in place the affinity group, as I visit and support the BSU more in my role and things like that. Does that answer your question?
It does, because I was going to say, you know, obviously when I was on campus, we had the benefit of, you know, we had a few, maybe three faculty of color, and so our basketball coach would actually take us and sort of take us to get a haircut. Or we would have, or a number of students actually did hair on campus, and so there would be a number of students sort of doing each other's hair. So we have that, but we also sort of were able to sort of tap into each other's resources. So very much I would encourage to make sure we're talking to the students, we're getting their feedback, we're understanding what they need, what they want, so that we could really make sure they have a voice and lean on the BSU, right? So you have a sort of a platform there and leaders within the community that you can lean on to help sort of get to be a voice for people who feel like they can't speak up. Right. So BSU as much as you can to sort of, you know, understand what are those needs and how we can make sure that we're getting as much input from students as possible.
Right, which is so important because, I mean, the adults that are in this conversation right now, I guess I'll speak for myself. I'm not Black. I don't have Black hair. I don't have to deal with that, right? Like kind of figure out what that means in Mercersburg to figure that out. So you're right, Jason. It has to be involving the student voice. We can't make assumptions about what they need, and we can't just try to fix it based on what we think. So it is really important to involve that student voice. I think it's so great the point you make about the networking and the resources that the students already use. I really want to put Rudy Wise's name out there because he's done a lot of work with our Black students, and he did kind of take on that role last year where he was taking students to the barber and those types of things. At the same time, I think it's really important that we take this moment to make a statement as an institution that for the students that want this service, we're providing it. So it's about kind of balancing using the kids as resources, but also saying, look, we acknowledge this might be a need and we are willing to support it, and here, look how we're doing this, right? Izona, did you want to jump in here on this conversation?
both pretty much said like some of the stuff that like topics I would address. So yeah, it's fine.
Can I jump in? I'm Bert Alamansky. I belong to Arlene. And I'm the father of Sharupe Alamansky, who's an Ethiopian orphan who Arlene and I adopted about 10 years ago. Was it 10 years ago? 10 years ago. Wow, time flies. One of the things that now, because I'm class of 60 and because I'm a very loyal Mercersburg alumnus, you know, I made a point over the years of taking Sharupe to the campus, which of course, you know, gave her an instant love and a sense of affiliation. And also there was Jason, like kudos to you, Jason Berschke, who was really instrumental in fostering that. One of the things that came up for Sharupe as we frankly toured around other boarding schools was that they didn't have very many kids of color. And when she went to Mercersburg, she was impressed that of the number of kids of color at Mercersburg. Arlene was especially impressed by the sense of community throughout everybody, the faculty, the staff, and Lucy Short, you added to that enormously. I don't know how much you realize it meant to Arlene when you spent so much time with her answering all her questions about what it was like. And so, you know, in behalf of her and me, wow.
I felt very welcomed.
And we kept insisting to Sharupe because she knows New York and she knows and she knows Woodstock, New York is where Arlene and I live now. But Mercersburg was kind of, you know, do I really want to be there? I mean, can I really relate to it? And one of the things that we kept emphasizing to her is that Mercersburg isn't a school, it's a community. And that community, and that is an educational thing that is much more important than teachers and books. It's a sense of belonging. And now she's there. She just went on campus. She was studying remote. And I'm going to shut up in a minute, but first of all, this is directed now to you, Asona, and to the other folks who are on campus. If there's some way that you can reach out to our daughter and just look her up and just say, hey, you know, you're the kid that white-haired guy, you know, from that antique from the class of 1960 was telling us about. And you know, he didn't really fit into a conversation about Black alumni, but boy, he talked about how much he loved you and how much he hoped that you would enjoy being at Mercersburg. And I just wanted to drop by and say hello and introduce myself. It would mean a lot. And I think it would make her feel very special. So I ask you to do that. And that's why I said at the beginning, I'm addressing to you, Asona.
Well, I have some great news. She lives on my hall, and everybody on our wing last night, we all went to her room and like we had like a welcome party, following COVID guidelines, of course. But yeah, she's awesome. We met her last night, and yeah, she's a wonderful person. So I'll definitely let her know that I spoke to you, and yeah, I think she'd really appreciate that.
Terrific. Well, she told us that everybody came to visit, but then she called us this morning in tears because she missed her very first class because she didn't know how to use the computer system to understand, and she didn't understand the scheduling system, and it was like finally she wandered around and until she found somebody who could direct her to the what was its office the
IT office.
The IT office to show her how to set up her computer so that she could get Wi-Fi. I mean, there are these little glitches. I told her, you remember how your legs used to hurt when you were little? We called those growing pains. Well, not being able to find your first class on Mercersburg, that's a growing pain. It'll pass.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that story, Bert, because you know why? I actually think that that's such a great first, you know, as hard as that was for her, I'm sure, you know, the fact that she had to figure that out on her own, but she was in an environment where she was surrounded by people who would help her is a really incredible first step. It's why you send your kids to boarding school. So I love that story.
And you know what? She did the right thing. She went out on campus on her own. She roamed around, found someone, said, I'm looking for the IT department. They said, you know, go to Irvine, whatever floor. She went there. It was great. She self-advocated. I was so proud of her. It was great.
Jason, are you going to play squash with her? You're muted.
Well, soon enough. It is so exciting, you know, remembering her coming back, you know, as a little one for your reunions, and now she's here. So it's awesome.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Chris Howes, because he was in the background making all kinds of good things happen, you know, and so, you know, we're very grateful, as I said before.
Well, we're glad she's with us.
Well,
does anybody else want to jump in? Addison, you want to talk about, we didn't get a chance to introduce yourself.
sure. Sorry that I was late. My name's Ashton Hunt, and I was Mercersburg class of '82. And I had just kind of a late day. Today was our first day at Landon with on-campus learning. We've got 25 tents set up on our soccer fields, which we're not using for soccer. So that's how we're handling it, doing things outdoors. And our diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinator left over the summer. And so I'm picking up some of that. I found out 2 weeks before the school year began that I would be coordinating that with the middle school. I guess what I'm kind of reflecting on is the Mercersburg that I went to in 1982 is very different than the one that you guys are experiencing now. And, you know, as frustrating as maybe things even seem now, just understand they are a lot better than they were in '82. I mean, there was no conversation on this. You know, my goal was, you know, when September was to make it to Thanksgiving, then from Thanksgiving, make it to Christmas, make it to spring break, and then spring break, make it to the summer. So that was, without, blowing up at somebody for doing something that was, insensitive or whatever. I just kind of, did my time and then got going, and actually probably stayed out of contact with the school for almost 10 years until I started, coaching again at Landon, and, needed a place to come for a cross country meet. So I kind of reconnected then, but from being a part of the Black alumni group and, having been on campus, a couple of times, throughout my time there, I can tell that a lot of progress is being made, and it's not easy work. I know that I've already messed up a couple of times, and it's only been what hasn't even been 2 months, but you just got to have a thick skin about it, say you're sorry, and just keep moving. And that's pretty much how I've been trying to roll with it. So it'll be interesting it's been interesting to me to listen to this, because I'm taking notes, because I've got a list of things that we're trying to do in our middle school, particularly as we come up on this election, and try to create an environment where the kids can talk about this stuff with more maturity, at least than the adults that are doing it. And that has been I'll just say it's been challenging, but I think we're doing good work, and I'm always attempting to steal from others. So that's part of the reason I'm here, is to get some ideas, and if I can be of any help, having been both an alumni and also doing this work, let me know.
Oh, we will be in touch.
Yeah, I know when you put that out there, it gets.
Katie, one thing I wanted, and Addison brought up sort of obviously the election, things that are going on, and sort of the racial and political unrest. I would say that you're going to find students that are very, especially, many of the students of color are on financial aid or on scholarship. So that at times also for them sometimes find difficult to understand, right? They're around privileged students that come from a long legacy of wealth. And sometimes it's difficult for them to sort of sit and be around them. I came from a single mom household, one of 4 boys. My mother was a Jamaican immigrant from the Bronx. all right, that lived in the Bronx, right? It was challenging to sort of, but by the way, so some of these people are my best friends in the world, or are my best friends in the world. But it was challenging because their experience and their outlook was much different than mine. And I had to sort of adjust, and then I also had to ensure that they understood sort of where I was coming from, right? And I'm saying this from a person who was captain of the football team, captain of the lacrosse team, played basketball, class president, head waiter, you name it, right? So, so you could imagine sort of me being very much involved. Jason Berschke was my advisor. So I was very much involved in the school, but still having some uncomfortability and having to sort of push through it. So think about that person who's not, that student who is not, doesn't play sports, is not necessarily involved, may be a little bit more to him or herself, can't really be, not as outgoing. And how do we make sure that we're checking in on those students, that we understand that there's a place for them, and they have a voice, or if they don't have a voice, someone else will be their voice. And that's something that I've reflected on over the years, that I had a great, like John, I had a great experience at Mercersburg. Absolutely loved it. Great experience. But that's largely because of what I did there. There's other people that could not adjust the way I adjusted. And largely because of their background, because of also the pressure that they faced. And so how do we make sure they have the right structure, and that and that's part of the reason why Tanya and John and Jay and I sort of, this Black Alumni Association, that's another network, another way for them to reach out, which I think is very much important. And sort of the mentorship program that we're trying to launch, and some of the connections that we're trying to launch, ensure that there's a place to say, there's someone that's coming from my background that could see what I've done or understand where I've been and sort of relate. So I would say, as parents, speaking maybe from my experience, don't hesitate to reach out and ask those hard questions to the advisors. My mom did it, right? So, and she was very much empowered Jason to sort of tell me like what I needed to do. So don't sort of hesitate to reach out to advisors, reach out to some of the leaders and the staff on campus to say, how can I help? While at the same time, you're right. So I had a lot of freedom from my mother there, and sort of she said to let me sort of go out and sort of find my wings. But she sort of planted different seeds around the campus to say, hey, you know what? There's, Vin, can you check upon Jason? Coach Schroer, how's Jason doing? So that to make sure that there was a network there, and sort of tapped into certain resources so that we know that the students felt comfortable and okay.
Thanks for that, Jason.
I would like to jump in. I have a few suggestions or comment. I just want to give a background. I am not American, so I came to the United States from Africa. And I came here, I attended graduate school here. And what surprised me a lot was what I would say was a disconnect or a lack of understanding that people who were born or grown in the US have of let's say of Africa, but also in general of the Black experience. And to that, I just want to say the Black experience in the United States particularly is difficult, but it's not just about challenges. And so it's very important to expose our children to successful role models who come from minority background. It's absolutely critical. And again, I'm speaking from the perspective of somebody who attended graduate school in the United States and was shocked by the perceptions that my classmate had of Black people in general, in the United States or also abroad. So I think by bringing, what you could do, for example, is to have speakers, on an annual basis. Very successful speakers on campus could be business owners, professionals, but staying away from the stereotypes, of Black success that you have, for example, as professional sports, basketballs, people who are in the entertainment industry, but really people of all walks of life who have achieved a certain level of success, and expose students to that. Because oftentimes, I think that the discriminations that we see in society also is connected to how people view one another. And sometimes, oftentimes even, by looking at a Black person or somebody from another race, even an African, with the perception that their experience is always challenging, or that they cannot achieve, or that they come from a difficult background, already cloud your perception of them, and also clouds your perception of their capabilities. So, having successful speakers on campus is one, but also you could look at the curriculum, the type of books that they are reading. My daughter Izona, one day she asked me about the book, what was that book again? Things Falls Apart. And she asked me about what do I think about Things Falls Apart as an African. And my response to her is that book was written for the white audience. It does not resonate with me as an African woman. I don't recognize my culture, although I was raised in a very a strong African culture, heritage, tribe, Berschke. I don't recognize it in the book. And I know that a lot of African authors at that time, after post-colonialization, were really writing for a white audience. They were really writing for the Western audience. So I think being aware of those nuances is very critical, because students today will read that book, but they will not necessarily position it in the post-colonial area. They will position it today, contemporary living in Africa. So then you wouldn't be surprised to see a student from Asia or China who thinks that in Africa, who would be surprised to see that people live in big houses, for example, right? So it's very critical to bring into the curriculum books that are set in contemporary settings in Africa particularly, and also role models or even speakers from the continent who will be able to really expose, give them an understanding of how life is in places where they don't necessarily have an opportunity to travel. So that's just a few points that I want to make.
Thanks, Nadine. That's actually really helpful perspective too. We have to be careful that we don't sort of unconsciously continue to perpetuate bias through our curriculum, and that can be a really easy thing to do. And it's one of the areas that we as adults are really working on our training, which is to understand the bias that we're bringing into this work and to continue to improve in that. So thank you. Those are two great points.
I remember last October talking to you, John, and Jason and Addison. You and I sat together, and the one thing that I heard that was constant was, I love Mercersburg, but I wish that I saw people that look like me. And I've been thinking about that a lot, and that's why I'm so excited about the mentorship program. And John, you were talking about Black alumni that are now super successful, and ways that our current students can see them, or come, whether they're coming and talking to the whole school or somehow connecting with our current students, and giving them an opportunity to see people that look like them, and to be able to think about that. And for everyone, the more that we learn, the better that everyone gets, obviously. So super appreciative of being able to connect alumni and families here on events like this to talk with that. So thank you for helping to bring it both for everyone and including our Black students and all students. What a difference that will make.
And Jason, we have an alum who's going to be joining us for our school meeting tomorrow.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, no, excited tomorrow. Nancy Abudu, who's class of 92 and been very connected with the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ACLU and done a lot of work about voting in politics, and a Black woman who's again, one of the great things about being able to do it virtually is that she's down in Atlanta, but now is going to be able to come and do a program with the school. So, and she's very interested in connecting with students too. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to have that.
I also know that a lot of faculty and also some students on campus didn't really understand like the issues and the complaints that Black students had. And like over the summer, Black at Mercersburg is like an Instagram page that came up, LGBTQ at Mercersburg. And then also this fall, sexism at Mercersburg arose. And so I think that was a platform that allowed a lot of faculty and then also a lot of students to see like some of the issues and some of the complaints that students of color had on campus. And it wasn't just current students, it was alumni. And so that made it way more impactful because students were realizing that it wasn't just these 4 years where students were complaining, it's been going on for a while. And after the rebirth of the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of people were paying way more attention to it. And I think that also helped to push a change on campus this year because a lot of people are genuinely upset about what happened and what has been happening for so many years in the world, in America, and now seeing on campus. And so people want to make change. It doesn't have to be necessarily about Black lives. It could be about sexism and how women are treated on campus, or how members of the LGBTQ community are treated on campus or in the world. So yeah.
Thank you, Izona. I think actually that's a really good way for us to wrap up tonight with your voice, inspiring us and launching us, because I think we were supposed to end at 8, and I'm always trying to be respectful of people's time. But I think this is just the beginning of a conversation, kind of bring us full circle to, where we started, that, we are all committed to making progress for Mercersburg. And when we have students like Izona who can help us to do that in this moment, and then those adults that I see on this call and the alumni that we have that are committed to this work, I have great faith that we are going to accomplish a lot together in just even this year alone, but going forward. And so this is the start, and we appreciate you being here with us. And we hope that if there's anything that's on your mind that you didn't get to bring up today, or you want to circle back on, that you don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. So feel free to be in touch with me, Leela, if that's more comfortable for you, or Chris Howes would be great points for you if you want to continue to engage in this. And we will get the alumni connected with our students in a way that is meaningful, so that they can continue to see some of the models of the success that have come out of Mercersburg. We have really impressive alumni who have a lot to share. So thank you all for being with us tonight, and we'll look forward to a time when maybe we can be together in person, but if not, we'll Zoom again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.